Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Good morning to all of you. And today we will do session 4 of piano class plot 1. It'll be 45 minutes, 40 minutes session. And I'll just give hopefully you have all practiced what I told last class, the scales, and then the clefs which I showed as well. I just start off with like a recap of what we did last class. So we finished three scales: C major, F major, and G major. So on both hands we did. So C major doesn't have any sharps. It's all white keys starting on C, and that's C major. And then for F major, you have one flat, which is B flat. This is B. So this is a B flat. So you have that's F major, and there's one flat, one black key, B flat for F major. And for G major, we start on the G again, and there's one sharp, which is an F sharp. F sharp, so we go. That's G major. And so once again, if I were to play C major, F major, and G major. So all of these are major keys. Major there are two types of keys as I've told before, major keys and minor keys. Major keys sound pleasant like this. Minor keys sound a bit damp and they sound a bit a bit more dark. And one thing we'll be doing, today might be our last theory session. After this, we will start next 6 sessions or so will be playing pieces, because we'll be reading as well from music sheets and we'll be playing them. So to really read, to be able to read properly, theory is required, which I'll be showing you. I'll be covering all aspects of how to read sheet music today on the board. And yes, and from next class onwards, we'll start playing for slot 1 as well. And yes, so these are the three main scales that we did. Today we'll be introducing one more scale, and we'll be talking about major keys, minor keys, and also about sheet music, like how to read sheet music. Last time we talked about some of the basic things. We talked about the treble clef and the bass clef, two of those. We talked about where the notes are on the staff, if you remember, that's called the staff, the stave. And this time, obviously, in sheet music, you don't just have notes like that, or you don't just have something as plain as that. You have many more things around the notes and how they look, and below the notes, and in front of the notes, and all of that. So that we'll be covering in today's lesson as well. All of that, the most basic ones and some intermediate ones as well, so that when we read the music, it's easier to grasp the concept there. So now, some major keys. First, the difference between major and minor. Just right here on the board. And there's one more important thing that I'll be talking about today. Um, so major keys. Let me just write it. You can see here. Like keys. So you have major keys and minor keys. So you have two types of keys, major and minor keys. So major keys are those, so there's not, the distinction between major and minor keys is how they sound. So major keys, they sound like the same way. They sound like pleasant, and they sound like good. They don't sound dark or deep. But minor keys, it's not that they don't sound pleasant, it's that they sound a bit more like dark and deep. So an example is C major. If I were to play, we know how it sounds. And an example of a minor key is C minor. You see that there are three sharps: D sharp, G sharp, and A sharp in minor keys. And yes, so you have sharps and you have all sorts of arrangements, all sorts of combinations of these notes in minor keys as well. And one important thing that I will be talking about right now is the concept of relative minor. So this is an important concept because it shows up in a lot of pieces and in how you interpret the pieces. And it'll be in our piece as well, I think, a few of our pieces. Yes. So relative minor is, let me just show you. Explaining is not really fit for this. Let me just show you as an example. So C major has all white keys, no sharps, no flats. So from C major, if I start on the C, I get that's C major. But now, and there's a minor key as well, which has no sharps and no flats. Obviously, the minor key won't start on C because then if there's no sharps and no flats, it will become C major. But there is another minor key, minor as in the opposite of, not the opposite of major, another form of key which sounds dark and deep, that also has no sharps and no flats like C major. So it has the same keys as C major. It has the same notes as C major. So C major has C, D, E, F, B, A, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Then the minor key also has the exact same notes as C major. No sharps, no flats, no nothing. And that key is A minor. So C major, if I were to write here, just write them down first. C major has no sharps and no flats, as we know, all white keys. There's a minor key as well. This is a major key, right? But now there's a minor key which also has no sharps and no flats, just like C major. So the exact same keys, exact same notes that C major has, it also has, but it's not a major key, it's a minor key now. So, and that minor key is A minor. So to show you how it would sound, C major starts on C and it sounds, but A minor starts on an A and it sounds from A to A. And this, if you noticed, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, exact same keys as C major, all white keys. So one scale of A minor is the exact same as one scale of C major. There's no nothing, there's no flats, no sharps, no anything. But if you, like, for example, if you were to compare C major and C minor, right? C major has all white keys, as I just showed you in the beginning, and C minor, which I played before, has three sharps, right? D sharp, D sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. So three sharps. So C major and C minor, though they start on the same key, they're major and minor. So you have difference in the notes. But C major and A minor, which is here, this is C, this is an A. You see that they have the same notes, the exact same notes. It's just that they start on different notes. This starts on a C, this starts on an A. And because this starts on a C, when you play a scale, it sounds it's a major key. It sounds pleasant. But this sounds, if you start on an A, it sounds a bit more deep, like dark. That's why it's a minor key. And that's what you call a relative minor. A relative minor is obtained from a major. So C major, I have the same notes. And if I were to find a minor key which has the same notes as C major, I would get A minor. And the trick to finding a relative minor for a key is to start off with your major key. So I'm taking C major, right? Let me take C major. Let me start look at the starting note, which is C. So C, to find the relative minor of C major, I need to go three notes down. That is three exact notes down. So I have to go B, B flat, A. So once I move down three notes, B, B flat, A, there, if I start off with the same notes as C major, I get my minor scale. An example is, if I say, let's say, what other keys have we done? Yes, let's say we did G major, I think. Yeah, we did G major. So G major, if I were to start off, let's say I need to move three semitones down, that is three notes down. From C, I went B, B flat, A. From G, I go G flat, F, E. And one thing is, it has the same notes as G major because it's relative minor. The same notes as G major. So G major has all white keys except for one sharp, which is F sharp. So E minor, which I obtained from going three notes down from G, also will have all white notes except for F sharp. So if I play the scale of E minor, I would get. So there's an F sharp here as well. So G major, once again to repeat, let me play G major, F sharp, coming back down. To find the relative minor of G major, the minor scale with the exact same notes as G major, I go 3 notes down from the beginning note, which is G. So G, 3 notes down, G flat, F, E. So G flat, F, E. And from here, I play 1 octave with the exact same notes as G major. G major has an F sharp. So here also E minor will have an F sharp. So you see that even this has an F sharp and everything else is white keys, just like G major. G major also everything was white except for an F sharp. This is the concept of relative minors, and relative minors are quite important because they have the exact same notes as their major key, but it's a minor key. It's a minor scale now instead of a major scale. So C major, if the relative minor of C major, we talked about it being A minor because exact same notes, but it's a minor key. For G major, the relative minor is E minor. So we move 3 semitones down. A semitone, so this term which I use called a semitone is also important. A semitone and a tone. So a tone is one full note. A tone is, let's say, from C to D. They're right next to each other. From C to D, it's a tone. From D to E, it's a tone. So they're right next to each other. So that's why it's called a tone. And a semitone is in between. So it's from C to a C sharp. And that's a semitone. It's half a tone. Because this is one tone. So from C to C sharp, it'll be half a tone. From C sharp to D, it'll be another half. So half plus half, you get one full tone, C to D. So a tone is composed of 2 semitones. So that's quite inherent. If we look at it once again, let's say we take from G, a tone from G upwards, you get A because they're right next to each other. And a semitone from G upwards, you get a G sharp. So G to G sharp is a semitone. Similarly, G sharp to an A is a semitone. They're like super close to each other. And these 2 semitones combine to make one tone. That is, a tone is composed of 2 semitones. Now, let me give another example of a note, let's say from A. And A to B is a tone because right next to each other, adjacent to each other. But A to A sharp is a semitone. Since it's like, even if you hear the music, you see that it's like a slight, it's the closest interval increase. It's a very slight increase, A to A sharp. And that's why it's called a semitone, because it's a very small increase, first of all. And moreover, semitone means half a tone. So if a tone is from A to B and a semitone is from A to A sharp, then obviously there's another semitone from A sharp to B. There's a half an increase here, there's another increase here. So it's half plus half, you get the full tone. So that's one tone, this is one semitone. Another example, let me go from C sharp this time, a black key. Here, one tone, an increase, would be from C sharp to D sharp. So this is one tone, and a semitone would be from C sharp to D. So this very clashing notes, these clashing notes, when you play, it's always a semitone. There's always a semitone, and obviously this and this is also clashing right next to each other, very small interval difference, and this is also a semitone. Semitones, 2 semitones. And when I combine these 2 semitones, C sharp to D and D to D sharp, I get one tone, which is C sharp to D sharp. So this is a concept of tone and semitones. And when I talked about relative minors, I said to find the relative minor of C major, I have to move 3 semitones down. So 3 semitones as in from C to B, one semitone, from B to B flat, another semitone, from B flat to A, another semitone. So it's like the closest notes possible. So those 3 semitones, when we move down, B, B flat, A, I get my relative minor. So for any key, if you take the major, if I want, let's say we talked about F major, I need to find the relative minor of F major. I need to move 3 semitones down, 3 of the closest notes down. So E, E flat, and D. And so the relative minor of F major is D minor. So F major has 1 flat, D flat. So D minor, which is 3 semitones down of F major, will also have 1 flat, B flat. So, and all the notes will be the exact same. It'll be the exact same as F major. So I just played a B flat. I didn't play anything else. I played all white keys, just like F major. So this is how you find relative minors. So if, for example, you need to find the relative minor of any note, let's say E major. We haven't even learned the scale of E major, but you don't have to know the scale of E major to find the relative minor. You just have to move 3 semitones down. So E to an E flat to a D, and D flat, and D to a D flat. So I moved 3 semitones down from here, here, here. So 1, 2, 3, from E to a D flat. So the relative minor of E major is a D flat minor. We call it a C sharp minor. It doesn't matter, you can call it anything since they are the exact same note. So you don't really need to know the scale of a major key to know its relative minor. You just need to move 3 semitones down. That's it. Those are the concepts of relative minors. C major is relative minors, A minor, semitone we talked about, it's half a tone. So one tone is composed of 2 semitones. And what exactly are semitones? Well, they are the notes that are exactly next to each other. So this is a semitone, this is a semitone, this is a semitone, this is a semitone. The interval difference is called a semitone, exactly next to each other. And when I make 2 semitones, when I have 2 semitones, the entire thing is called a tone, right? Because semi means half. So when you add the 2 halves, and when I add these 2 halves, 2 semitones, I get 1 full tone. So that's we've talked about semitones and tones and relative minors as well. So now let's talk about, just give me this. So now what we'll be talking about is how to read sheet music, which I'll be showing you here. Some important aspects of sheet music, how to read it, like how are the notes written, and that I showed you a bit last class. But in this class, I'll be showing how exactly. That was a very like rudimentary view. So in this class, I'll be showing you exactly how it's written and all the ornaments, all the other aspects of sheet music as well, how it looks. So let me say I play, let's say I have a piece of sheet music, right? Let's draw it here. Yes. You can see. I don't know if you can see that well, but so this is a staff or a stave. Call it a stave or a staff, which I told you last class. So you have this simple one. You have a line in the starting. So usually we have 2 clefs, which I told you about. The treble clef, which I'll just write here. Actually, there's something more to write below this, so I'll just write it down here. You have the treble clef and the bass clef. So if you remember, the treble clef looks somewhat like this, and the bass clef looks somewhat like this, like a question mark with 2 dots. So that's a bass clef. Usually in piano, we play the bass part with the left hand, and the treble part with the right hand. The high parts with the right hand, middle part with the right hand, the bass parts, low parts with the left hand. That's how we usually play. And now let's say you'll encounter this a lot in music. Some important aspects of sheet music. let's say this is a treble clef. Let's say this part which I will be showing you is to be played with the right hand. So that's a treble clef mark here. So treble clef, and let's say now you have this extra things. You have a few extra things which we'll be learning today. The first one is just draw them first. So yes, so now what we'll be talking about is some of the things that you usually see on a staff. So this is how it would be represented. Some simple sheet music, and you see that a few numbers here, 4, 4, and let me just add a few more things. So let's say you have a few things like this. I think it's going a bit too low. So let me just show you how exactly to read this. You have a few numbers here, and oops, you have 4, 4. And what exactly does that mean? We'll get to that. And you also have like an expansion here, like an increase. And here you have like these notes which I told you about. You have lines on top, which I'll be talking about, and you have these circles that are filled circles, which I'll be talking about as well. So when you see something like this, when you see there are actually types of notes, which we'll be learning right now. Just erase this. You have types of notes in sheet music. You don't just have one type of note, like one type of note right here. This is not just one type. You have many types of notes that you use to represent. For example, this note, which I've just written here, all of these, they look the exact same, and they are the exact same type of note. And what they represent is they represent this note. It represents what we call a crotchet. So this note is just a version, I'm just written it back here. And we call this note a crotchet. So this fill circle with a stamp. This type of note is called a crotchet. And why? What's the speciality of this note? Well, the speciality is that the crotchet must be played for one beat. Just one beat. So let's say this is what we know that this is an E, right? Because it is in treble clef. I've talked about where middle C is. Middle C is a ledger line below treble clef. It's a line, and that's middle C. And after the line in the space, you have a D, and on the next line you have an E. So this here, which is present on the stave, the bottom part, the bottom note. This one is an E, a middle E. So this middle E must be played for one beat. So one beat as in just one. So just E, just one beat. Just one beat, and that's all that this E must be played for. And even this note and this note and this note, all of them are just one beat. You have to just play them for one beat. Shouldn't hold them for any longer. This is a G, this is a B, this is a G, right? How do we know that? We just count up. E is on the line, F is in the middle, then G is on the line, so this is a G, and then A is in the middle, and then B is on the line, so this is a B. Then we come back to the G. So E, G, B, G. Each of them must be played for a duration of exactly one beat. That is a speciality of a crotchet, and each of these must be played for exactly one beat. The second type of note that we have, which I'll be talking about, is, let's say I erase both of these notes. Okay, by the way, these notes, just in case you've forgotten, this is an E, this is a G, this is a B, and this is a G, E, G, B, G. You come all the way back down. And the first type of note which I've been showing you is a crotchet. So the crotchet is 1 beat. Right now, another type of note we have is called, just make it bigger so in case so that you can see. We have a circle, a stem, but in this time the circle is not filled, it's just left empty. And this type of note we call a minim. So a crotchet for 1 beat, it looks like a stemmed circle. Circle is filled. The second one is a minim, and it doesn't have any filling inside the circle. It also has a stem, and this minim must be held for 2 beats. So 2 beats, this minim, crotchet 1 beat. So a minim can simply be written as 2 crotchets. Don't you think so? Because a crotchet is 1 beat. A minim, which has an empty circle, looks like this, is 2 beats. So simply put, a minim can be written as 2 crotchets, or a minim can be written as 2 crotchets. This is how we can write a minim, because it's 2 beats and a crotchet is 1 beat. And here, now, let's say, now that we've learned what a crotchet is, 1 beat, and minim is 2 beats, let's count the beats in this stave that we're looking at here. We have 1 crotchet, 1 crotchet, 1 crotchet, 1 crotchet. So total of 4 beats. A total of 4 beats, because 1 beat for this crotchet, 1 beat here, 1 beat here, and 1 beat here. So it would be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is just 4. So this excerpt has 4 beats in it. So it must be played for a total of 4 beats. So E, G, B, G, if I were to play this on the piano, it would sound like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beats. And now this double clef, we know what it is. What is this number? You have a 4 on top and a 4 in the bottom. This is an important part of music. We call this the time signature. We just write here, let's say, just erase what's on the top. Now that is the staff. So this entire number here, 4, 4, 4 on 4, you see, is called the time signature. It's called the time signature. And the time signature is an important part of sheet music. It's always there in all sheet music. It's always there in the beginning. It can be 4 on 4, it can be a bunch of other numbers. It depends. But what exactly does this mean? I'll be explaining right now. So 4 on 4, the bottom 4 represents the type of note, which is crotchet, minim, quaver. Quaver will be learning later on. You have different types of notes, right? We talked about crotchet, talked about a minim. Crotchet is 1 beat. Minim is 2 beats. So the bottom 4, the bottom number, whatever number is there in the bottom, represents the type of note. So a 4 in the bottom represents a crotchet, because you have crotchets in this bar. A 4 represents a crotchet. And the top note represents how many of these notes must be there in one excerpt, in one bar. Obviously, we call this a bar. What we call from here to here, we call this a bar. You have many bars in one piece of music. So you may have one bar after another bar, another bar, another bar. And why do we have many bars? Why not just write them as one entire thing? Because if we write them as one entire thing, we'll just lose the rhythm. We won't be able to properly look at the rhythm. It makes it very difficult to count the rhythm, because the rhythms might get complicated. So by having bars with designated rhythms, with designated timings for each bar, like this bar must be played for 4 beats, this bar another 4 beats. So when you have it that way, it's easier to play the music. So all sheet music has bars. So after this is the end of one bar. Then again, it starts like this, and you have like 5 lines. And then again, you have, let's say, a note here, and then it goes on. So this is one bar, and then you have another bar, and then another bar. So you have these bars in sheet music, and what the top note, top number here, the time signature tells us is how many notes you have in one bar, and what type of notes. Well, that the bottom tells us. Bottom is 4, means crotchet. So 4 crotchets, because it's a 4 on the top, right? So 4 crotchets in one bar is how you read this time signature, how you read this. So 4 notes in one bar. What type of note? Well, look at the bottom number, it'll tell you. A 4 in the bottom means a crotchet. So 4 crotchets must be there in one bar. So this is one bar, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 crotchets in one bar. That is the time signature, how you read it. Now let's say I change this 4 to a 3, so that it becomes a bit more, you can understand it better as well. Let's say I change it to a 3. Now, the bottom notices, the bottom number is the same. So the bottom number represents what? The type of note, right? So we have the bottom number representing a crotchet. Because 1 by 4 always represents a crotchet. And the top note, the top number, I mean, represents the number of those notes in the bar. So the bottom is a 4, we know that it represents crotchet, and the top is a 3, that means 3 crotchets in a bar. So here we have 4 crotchets in a bar, which doesn't make sense because it's 3 crotchets in a bar. So we have to get rid of one of these crotchets. One of these crotchets must be got rid of. And now it satisfies the time signature, which is 3 on 4, 3 crotchets in a bar. Sorry, 3 crotchets in a bar. 3 represents number of crotchets, 4 represents the type of the note. So 4 represents crotchets always. When you look at when you look at the time signature, you must understand what it means. So 3 on 4, whenever you look at it, there are 3 crotchets in a bar. So how many beats is that bar for? That bar is for 3 beats, because 3 crotchets, 1 crotchet is 1 beat, and hence a bar will be for 3 beats. So 1, 2, 3 here. So 1, 1, 1, and when you add all of this, you get 3 beats. That makes sense. This was 4 before, and we had 4 crotchets in a bar, which is also 4 beats, which adds up to 4 beats because 4 on 4, right? 4 at the bottom signifies the type of note, and the number at the top signifies the number of those notes. So let's say the bottom note changed to a 2 rather than a 4. So let's say use another pen. It became a 2, a 3 on 2 now. Now it's another time signature, a 3 on 2. We changed the bottom number. So that number 4 is to represent crotchets, but now it's a 2, which does not represent a crotchet because number just changes. 4 is to represent crotchets. Now it's a 2. So what exactly does this number represent? Well, this represents a minim, which I've talked about. A minim is 2 crotchets. Minim is 2 crotchets. So when we reduce the number from 4 down to a 2, we get a minim, because a minim is 2 crotchets. So the 2 number at the bottom of the time signature always represents minims. So 2 here represents minims, and the 3 here represents the number of those minims. So if I read this time signature, it would be 3 minims in a bar. So I cannot have 3 crotchets in a bar because that adds up to 3 notes, 3 beats. But 3 minims in a bar, according to time signature, if I read it's 3 minims in a bar, and a minim is 2 crotchets, so it would add up to 6 beats instead of 3 beats. So I have to empty these circles, make them as empty circle, because a minim is represented by an empty circle. I would have to empty these circles, and now it would be 3 minims. Let me just draw the line in a bar. Now these are 3 minims in a bar, and now they follow the time signature very well. So this line at the bottom, we've talked about it before. I haven't shown you this, but I've talked about it. It's crescendo, which means you're increasing the volume. So if I were to play this on the piano with increasing volume, this bar, I would get each of them for 2 notes, right? So it would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it increases in volume. So this open beak that you see here represents crescendo or increasing volume. So that is what this represents. And this is how a normal staff looks. The time signature you have some other aspects we should be covering next class. And you have a few other things which are not that important. But this is how it mainly looks. And these are the main aspects of time signature that we've learned today. And hopefully you guys have understood it. We've talked about, we've just revised the scale.